Legends, welcome to our first predicted team lineups of 2025. I'm your host, Joey, and joining me today, all the way from Queensland, Timmy O from the NRL SC Off the Bench podcast. How are you, Timmy?
Fantastic, Joey. Thanks very much for having me on, mate. It's we've been trying to tee this up for a while. Certainly, I listen to your show, you listen to mine. I get plenty of grief on mine, and yeah, mate, it's great to be on here.
Mate, it's probably time for me to cop some of it. So we'll see what happens tonight. Mate, fantastic to have you on, of course. So this is the first one of our team previews for 2025. We're going to start off with your team, Timmy, the Brisbane Broncos. Now, let's go through the ins and outs first of 2025. So the major in, of course, Ben Hunt, and the biggest outs, Corey Oates, who retired, Jordan Pereira, who retired, and then just a couple of fringe players as well. So not much to go off there. Pretty much the same team from 2024. But let's jump into some predicted lineups, mate. I know you and I, it's quite similar what we have. What we'll do is we'll go through our best 17 if all players were available. And then while we're talking about that, we'll say, but this player may not be available, and this is who we may think will play round one. So, mate, we'll start off with the fullbacks. Is it Reece Walsh for you?
Yeah, mate, absolutely. He's look, he's the new kid on the block, isn't he? Although he's not so new anymore. He's been around for probably 2 or 3 seasons now. But look, mate, he's probably. I'm a hardcore Broncos fan, and look, to be brutally honest, I think he's probably the best fullback we've had in a long time.
Wow.
As far as excitement, speed, he's got the X factor, he's got everything. Don't get me wrong, we've had plenty of guys in there over the last probably 5 to 10 years who've done a great job. But I think he's the whole package. When he's
Mm.
switched on, he's got everything, and I mean, there's no one that's going to stop him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be interesting if he can perform as well. They've had that shirt training ban, so they've had to wear shirts at training. So we'll see how he goes this year. He hasn't been able to have the kit off at training, but things could change. So we'll see what happens there for
I'd
Walshy.
imagine spectator numbers at training sessions are probably a little bit lower this year now that they've made all the boys put shirts back on. It's not
Yes.
shirts versus skins anymore at training.
Yes, from both too. I know I definitely wasn't going down if he had to wear a shirt. But mate, let's jump into the wingers now. My wingers, quite simple. I've got Jesse Arthurs on one wing, and I've actually moved Selwyn Cobbo back to the wing. From all reports, I think that's where they're going to play him. Mate, do you have anything different on the wings?
No, mate, that's what I've got as well. I think Cobbo's days in the centres are probably I wouldn't say over for good, but I think with Staggs and Dean Mariner in there, I think
Yeah.
he's going to be on that left side, and I think they're going to try and get him as much ball as they can.
Well, I think it was 2023. He was fantastic on the wing. So when they moved him back to center last year, I wasn't a big fan of the move. I could see why they were trying to do it. We'll talk about this next guy in the centers. Of course, you mentioned him before, Katoni Staggs and Dean Mariner. Now Mariner set the world alight. I thought in 2024 probably had his best year to date in a team that didn't hit the heights of 2023. So yeah, mate, I think you just said it there, but I think if all players are available, they're still our starting centers, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's the kid's quick. He's watching him live. I've been a Broncos member now for the best part of 15 years, and look the speed that he's got on those kick returns and things like that, like the chip and chase and that kind of thing. If he can get through the line, he's gone. It's really good to watch. There's certainly plenty of speed in our back line this year.
That's what you need. He's a scary prospect, mate. Let's move into the halves now. If we're doing the best 17, we'd probably have Ezra Mam there and Adam Reynolds. Of course, the incumbents, but we do know Ezra Mam will miss the first couple of weeks of the season. So we've got Ben Hunt for now. Is that the same as you, mate?
Yeah, look, mate, I can't see anything being any different. I think Ezra's out till round eight, round
Eight,
10,
yeah, I
somewhere
believe.
in there. So, yeah, I think it's round eight. That's right. He got 10 weeks, but comes in at the end of round eight, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, there's no need to really talk about it. There's been plenty of stuff in the media about it and what he's there for, what he's copped it for. Everyone's got mixed feelings as to whether it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. At the end of the day, the NRL's made a call, and there's not much we can do about it now. So, but yeah, as far as the future 5/8 of the club goes, as long as he sorts himself out, he's remorseful and tries to get back into everyone's good graces, I suppose. Some people will never forgive and forget, but look,
Yeah.
he's at the moment he's our number six, and once he's fit, I can't see him not getting back on the park.
Yeah, absolutely. Hunt came out during the week saying that he would move to hooker once Mamby is back. So, in saying that, let's talk about the front row. So, obviously, Payne Haas, a little injury niggle at the moment, looking set to be right for round one. Of course, if we're doing a best 17, Payne Haas is my starting number 8. But at 10, I've got Pat Carrigan. He said he's happy to move to the front row. I would put him there so we can accommodate some other players. And of course, my hooker, if all are fit, you've got Ben Hunt. But I think for round one, I'd love to see Blake Moser get a run, but I think they're going to lean towards Pakes at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. The news over the last week or so up here has been that Corey Pakes is going to have first crack at number 9, but then it was only about 48 hours ago that I read something that said Billy Walters, like that Maguire's come out and said that Billy Walters is going to be the starting 9 and we'll
Mind
go from
games, mate.
there. So look,
Mind
there's
games.
to be fair, mate, there's 3 or 4 guys that want to have a genuine crack at it. So we've got no shortage of hookers in the team. But look, I've said it on our show on Off the Bench podcast for probably the best part of 12 months. I genuinely believe that Benny Hunt is dead set. I reckon he's the best number 9 that we've got in the country. Um, like Harry Grant's got X factor. There's lots of things that Harry can do that Ben can't do, and all the rest of it. But I think for the package as a whole, I reckon best Ben Hunt is probably one of the best hookers that we've had maybe since Cam Smith. I know that's a big call, but I just think his versatility, the things that he can do, yeah, look, I really rate him as a number 9. And yeah, the sad part is that he wants to be a halfback. But look, I talked about it in the off season before we'd signed him. I said early on last season that I wouldn't surprise me if once he gets everything sorted down at the Dragons, he was going to come home.
Yeah, look, I think you're exactly right. I think he's the best. He's the best hooker who doesn't wear the number 9. So very, very interesting there, Benny Hunt. We've seen what he's done in Origin. Obviously, as a New South Welshman myself, it's been sad times. I think a couple of years ago when Benny Hunt ran half the field to score. So yeah, look, we've seen what he can do in that hooking position. I think, as we spoke on, if all fit, he's definitely the number 9. But from a fantasy point of view, I hope Blake Moser does get a start. He's looking pretty cheap, but we will jump into that a bit later. Mate, who were your front rowers?
Yeah, look, by all accounts, if Paddy Carrigan has decided to put his hand up and say he'll play there. To be brutally honest, I'm not convinced it's necessarily the right thing.
No.
I really like Paddy playing at 13.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not the creative genius that a lot of other clubs have as a starting 13, but and maybe in this day and age, the 8, 10, and 13 in some respects aren't a great deal different. The
Yeah.
13 seems to be considered more a front rower rather than a second rower. But yeah, look, I don't know. He's certainly got the motor. I'll be interested to see how many minutes they both play then, if they're both playing out of the front row. I don't see either of them being a meat and potatoes 40, 45-minute type front rower. I see both of them as being a 60, 65-minute sort of front row partnership. So yeah, look, I don't know. There's some other players in there that I'm sure we'll talk about, but by all accounts at the moment, that's the 8 and 10.
Yeah, for sure. Mate, let's move into the second row. Of course, mine are pretty simple. Brendan Piacura and Jordan Ricky there are my second rowers. Do you have anything different for me?
No, unfortunately, I don't. Look, I was really unimpressed with the two of them last year.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think Piakura hit anywhere near the heights that we expected him to. He showed some really good signs of becoming a bit of a second row superstar, almost, I guess, on that left hand side in 2023, in the latter part of the season. But look, by all accounts, just it didn't eventuate last year, and as a whole, I was pretty disappointed. Jordan Ricky, I don't know, we seem to lose a lot of tackles, a lot of missed tackles through both of those boys. And as far as the defensive woes are concerned, it's something that I hope Madge has really worked on in the off season because, geez, we had a lot of tries scored against us that went straight through both those two boys. So he's got to tighten that up. And I think there's plenty of other boys in the background that would love to put their hands up. Me personally, I would actually really like to see Xavier Willison given a crack at one
Okay.
of them, taken out of the front row rotation and given a decent crack there. I think he could be like an Ola Kawatu, a Kaloa
Yeah.
Matangi, those
Yeah.
sorts of players. He's a big body. He's got some leg speed, and I think he could be the player that's just really hard to tackle. So yeah, they're the sort of second rowers that I think we need. But I can see Piakura and Jordan Ricky being the starting 11 and 12.
Yeah, I have to agree. Mate, Jordan Ricky, another very attractive man, just like Reece Walsh. Maybe he was just a bit scared of, getting his makeup wrecked last year, but let's hope that this year, yeah, he'll fire for your Bronx. But mate, we jump into that lock position. We talked a bit about Paddy Carrigan before moving into the front row, and all the talk at the moment is that Kobe Hetherington will be getting that starting spot. I've locked him in for my predicted lineup based on round one. I think he'll get it. He's definitely no Pat Carrigan, and I don't think he gets through the same sort of work rate. But something that Hetherington will give you is he'll tackle and tackle and tackle and tackle. And look, if you're looking for a no frills player, he's your man. Have you got anything different for us?
No, look, I think that's who's going to get the spot, and by all reports, it seems to be going that way. I'm not a huge fan. I think over the last couple of years, he's been really, really disappointing. And
Yeah,
uh, and when they started saying that they're going to move Paddy out of 13 and put Kobe in, I just want him. If he can take that 13, play some big minutes, and play some decent footy, then hats off to the coaching staff. There's always been a fair bit of promise on Kobe, and as far as I'm concerned, he's ready. Not yet produced.
yeah. Look, I think the minutes are going to be the issue. I can't see him playing big minutes. I think they'll use that rotation of Wilson, maybe even a Takura, and then it, possibly Paddy Carrigan moves back to lock, move one of them into the front row. So it's going to be very interesting there what they do. Let's look at the bench makeup, mate. Of course, it can go a number of different ways. Tyson Smoothy at 14. We've got Ben Tikura in there as well. I've got Xavier Wilson in there. And I've just finished it off with Marty Tapau. I think finish off his career. He's still looking good, Marty. He can still run some strong lines for you for 20 minutes. Mate, what's your bench makeup look like?
Yeah, look, I think the only one that you're sort of really missing from there is Corey Jensen, and this is where I
Oh,
think
yes.
there is a bit of conjecture because I reckon Corey Jensen could jag that number 10 role, and Paddy stays where he is. I think Payne and Corey played well in the latter part of the season, and I don't think Corey Jensen did anything that deserves him to essentially be dropped. So unless they figure he's another year older and maybe start to slow him down a little bit, I'm not really sure, but. I think there's no reason why he can't be our starting 10 and leave things pretty much as they were. Obviously, Madge is going to want to mix things up because we didn't win the cup last year. So, yeah, maybe he's looking for some changes to try and work out what we can do differently to do better. But yeah, look, Corey Jensen, absolutely, if he's not starting, he will absolutely be on the bench. Fletcher Baker's another name that's been flashed around. Again, another player that I mean, we got him out of the Roosters, and I still haven't seen anything that shows that he's of that sort of quality. So yeah, outside of that, Bentakura, I'm a massive fan of Bentakura. The guy is
Yeah, same.
huge. He's Payne Haas 2.0. And if they can manage to get Payne and Takura playing big minutes both side by side in the front row, like heaven help any team that tries to tackle him. Then when you add the extra firepower of like Paddy in there as well, and Corey Jensen's going to tackle all day long. He's a meat and potatoes forward, but look, he just tackle. So look, I think we've got the firepower there to play well in the forwards. But look, that's about where we are at the moment. At 14, if it's Moser at 9, then I think Billy Walters probably gets it. If it's Corey Pakes, then yeah, I don't know. It really is that 14 number 9 is going to be a massive toss up.
Yeah, that was something I was going to talk to you about, mate. All reports is, what we've seen of Corey Pakes is he's not an 80-minute hooker, but from all reports, Blake Moser is. So it'd be really interesting if Blake Moser does get the gig. Do they bother running with a second hooker, or do they run with a Kobe Hetherington at 14 who can play a bit there as well? It's going to be really interesting to see what they do in that scenario. Of course, you can't really leave Billy Walters out. I think he hasn't been that poor. But mate, what's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, see, like you said, Kobe Hetherington coming on as a 14, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I don't think he's going to command big minutes.
Yeah,
And maybe, yeah, Moses. Look, I really like Moses. I think he's got the X factor coming out of dummy half, and I don't think the other guys do.
yeah.
It's as simple as that. If we've got to score more points than the other team, I like Moses can get a few tackles, but I don't think he's like a Cam McInnes 60 tackles a game type bloke. But yeah, I think he's got the X factor and the firepower out of dummy half and the speed out of dummy half. There's just a couple of things in his ball, like in his locker, I guess, that he's got to work on. But yeah, I don't know. I think outside of Ben Hunt, I'd prefer to give Moser a crack rather than the other boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you got a bit of depth there, as you spoke on before. Fletcher Baker. If we go even deeper into the halves with Glassjaw Reynolds, could be his final year, and if he gets one more injury. But we do have Jock Madden still sitting there, and of course Josh Rogers as well. So lots of depth there for the Bronx, which is a good thing to have. Mate, let's jump off our predicted 1 to
And
17.
young, sorry, Corey Black is still there as well.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's plenty of young guys coming through. So yeah, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. I think that hooking role is the big one for me. Speaking of the hooking role, let's jump into a bit of Supercoach relevance. Now, obviously, you're a Supercoach podcaster. You guys love your Supercoach. I do too. I play a bit of both. We won't mention the other one because we're talking Supercoach tonight. But let's talk a few of these Broncos players that we find relevant, some that we might avoid. Of course, the big one, Payne Haas. Now, I think Payne Haas he's always there. He's always a premium buy in Supercoach. Maybe not someone you want to start with the niggling injury. Thoughts on Haas for this year, mate, to start with, or no go for you?
Yeah, look, absolutely. He's a set and forget front rower that you can play, a plug and play. He's obviously going to be in the top 2, 3, 5, whatever front rowers for the season, as long as he obviously stays fit and healthy. You know what you're going to get from Payne Haas. It's a constant anything between 60 and 90. Like 60s is floor, and 90s are sort of an average weekend for him. He can go a little bit higher. But yeah, look, as a whole, I think he's great. I'm not starting with him. I'm not starting with that much money in the front row. I think there's enough sort of 400-500K guys around that you don't have to start with Payne Haas, but undoubtedly he will be my first sort of upgrade at some stage of the season.
Yeah, me too. And then, of course, his front row partner, if he gets the gig, Paddy Carrigan, a bit of value there. Minutes will be the big thing.
Mm.
Will he meet the minutes? Of course, he had a lot of minutes last season when Haas was out, but Haas was injured during those periods. So, look, he'll still do you a job if you want a bit of a cheaper price than Payne Haas. But I think if we're looking at front rowers from the Broncos, you go Haas any day of the week.
Yeah, that's right. I think from memory, there's only about 50K difference between the two of them or something like
Yeah.
that. So look, you'd absolutely go Payne Haas on the upside over Paddy Carrigan. Paddy got dual, I think, from memory. I'm trying to remember. He's
Yeah.
not one that
I
I've
need to have a
looked at,
look, mate.
but yeah, so if he hasn't, then if he's starting in the front row, it'll only be 6 weeks or whatever before he gets it. So look, he may be a player that you can start in the second row for 600 odd K, and then after round 5 or 6, whenever the numbers change again, that maybe he's someone that you can then put up into the front row. He'd be a pretty handy front row as a consistent player up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I wouldn't talk anyone out of buying Paddy Carrigan. I think he's still going to get you some great value and some great points. So he's definitely one to look at. Let's talk a few cheapies, mate. Of course, Blake Moser, that man we mentioned before. If he gets the 9 gig, he's straight into my team. 250K, very cheap at the
Mhm.
moment, or I think maybe pushing 300K, still very cheap. His break even is going to be in the minus. He's going to make you cash. He's going to do really well. That's if he gets a 9. If he gets 14, mate, are you still going to buy him, or are you a bit more hesitant?
No, a little bit more hesitant. I think just because the Broncos have so many players that can play there,
Yeah,
but then also, like we said before, if he comes off, like someone like Kobe Hetherington might go in there. There might be sort of a bit of a shuffling of the deck chairs sideways for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then if someone sort of plays really well, you don't know what's going to happen. So look, it's more a one to watch at the
Excuse
moment.
me.
If he starts and it looks like he's going to get the minutes, then absolutely you jump on. I think from memory he's about 310, 312, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I'm not there at the moment. I'm starting with Sandon Smith and Mumazellus, but that's just Mumazellus more a placeholder at the moment till we work out which of the other cheap hookers is actually starting.
I'm pretty lucky this year. Last year we really struggled with hookers. There weren't many cheapies to start the year. We had Denny Levi, of course, was a slow cash burn. There weren't many around, but this year we've sort of got a bit of a luxury where we've got Mamazulas, Sandon Smith, Blake Moser. There's a few cheapies there that are coming through, which could get a crack, which is really good.
Hmm.
Mate, another player of some relevance, Reece Walsh. I know a few people starting with him. He is flying at the moment at training from all reports. So if that is the case, mate, can he squeeze into your team at any point?
Absolutely, mate. He's the one of the firecrackers that I first started with. He's Yeah, look, he's everything I'm not. He's 20. He's got lovely hair. He's got yeah, look, we'll just leave it at
Eyeliner.
that. Yeah, I'm sure he's covered in tats somewhere too, but I haven't got any of them. I'm not in a hurry to put the eyeliner on though, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, look, he's currently sitting as my reserve fullback. I've got
Yeah,
him in there with Tommy Turbo. And to be brutally honest, look, he was one of the first guys that I picked. I think value wise, he's got the Oh, look, let's be real. The Broncos finished in the bottom of the eight, and they couldn't really have played much worse. I know they finished almost with the spoon the year before, but look, I think they played pretty horribly last year at times throughout the season, and
yeah,
I don't think that they can really get much worse than what they dished out. So, look, I think with the young forward pack, if everyone's fit and firing, I think Reece Walsh is going to be whether this is sort of his really big breakout year of consistent 90s and hundreds. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I think his value at 730.
mate, some great value. 738K. Just looking here at fantastic. I mean, Payne Haas, though, 669, which is great for a front rower. Of course, the other player we should probably talk about, Benny Hunt. We know what he's done in Supercoach over the past few seasons at halfback. Whether he can emulate that at the Broncos, where it's probably more of a shared role. At the Dragons, he did it all. More of a shared role here with Reynolds, depending on if Reynolds get injured. Ben Hunt's at 603K, mate. Any interest there?
Not for me, not at halfback. I think with at the moment I've got Nico Hines and young Dodd from the Bunnies,
Yeah.
as long as
Yep.
he's absolutely starting. So yeah, just I did have go double guns with Nico and Cleary, but I just wanted to spread that Cleary money a little bit elsewhere, especially as statistically, historically, he starts pretty slow.
Yeah.
Panthers draw, everyone's talking about it. The Panthers draw is one of the worst draws that are out there.
Good.
So especially with kicking off, I think has he got the Storm to start off?
They're in Vegas.
Yeah, sorry, that's right. They're over in Vegas.
Sharks.
So yeah. So it's I knew there was some major issue with it, but yeah. So look, I'm actually staying away from all Panthers. I think from the start at the moment. But yeah, I mean Cleary naturally is going to be one of the first guns that you try to aim for, but it might be a month into the game.
Yeah, look, we're actually at a luxury this year where Cleary is priced at 880 odd, which we haven't seen in a
Mm.
long time. So he's actually quite cheap and he's quite affordable. So I think you can afford, to sit out a few weeks and just see how he goes. High break even, so he's probably not going to meet that the first couple of weeks, depending on his
Mm.
opponent. So yeah, I think you're exactly right there. No interest for Hunt for me. If we go down a little bit, Selwyn Cobbo 550. Interesting back on that wing spot. I think there are some really good fullback and wingers. He may be a shout, but it just all depends. We have to see how he goes. I don't like picking a lot of wingers in my wing center. Sorry, I usually go a lot of centers. I try to steer clear from wingers just because a lot of the time it's ball passed to them and they put it down over the line. There's not a lot of attacking stats to go off there, apart from tries. So, look, I'll be steering clear of Cobbo. Mate, any thoughts on Selwyn?
Yeah, look, I don't mind it. He's not in my side at the moment, but I've got Campbell Graham, and it's looking like if he's definitely going to miss the start of the season. I've still got about 70K sitting in the bank there, and look, it could be a sneaky Graham up to Cobbo trade. I actually do like him on the wing. I think he's probably look, he's going to have the kick returns
Yeah,
off the fifth tackle options. So look, I think if he can sort of put a bit of I guess, the fullback spark into playing on the wing. I don't see why he can't be as good as Brian To'o or any of the like the high flying sort of outside back. So look, I don't know. He's definitely one that I'm keeping an eye on. I'll be watching through the trials as long as he gets
yeah.
some decent minutes in the trials, and if that's the case and goes all right, like I think it'll be a Graham up to Selwyn.
Probably a good pod option. I don't think there'll be many people jumping on him. So great little pod option there. We'll go down a little bit. I want to talk about the hookers that we spoke on before. Now, we've already mentioned Blake Moser, but let's talk about Kobe Hetherington first. Now, 338K. If he gets that starting lock spot, mate, that's pretty juicy.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. He's not in my team at the moment. I'm waiting for those team reveals to sort of come out. The team list Tuesday. If he is starting and it looks like he's going to get 60 plus minutes, then it's probably hard pressed not to go somebody at 330 odd K. So yeah, look, it's really going to come down to how many cheapies really do get named. There's a
Yeah,
lot of them. Oh, look, let's be honest. There's just about a cheapie named in every position at the moment, as far
yeah,
as everyone
yeah.
seems to think. So if that is the case, then there'll be a plethora of them. At which point you can maybe try and find better ones. But look, if he's 60, 65 minutes and 330K starting, I think it's hard. You'd be hard pressed not to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one that I'm definitely tempted by at the moment. Of course, I just want to wait for those team lists as well. But the other man we mentioned before, Corey Pakes, 232K. Now, if he gets starting nine, I'm almost tempted to bring him in. I know he may not get the minutes, but I am very, very tempted.
Yeah, look, I don't mind him. When he did come on the scene a couple of years ago, he actually played some really good footy. I think the
Mm,
fact that we brought Billy Walters up from the Tigers put a bit of a dampener on his progression.
yeah.
So look, I actually do like him as a player, and I think there's a spot there for him. Or there should be a spot there for him. So yeah, it just depends on whether they still play Broncos son of a son of a son favoritism, or whether or not they really do genuinely try and pick the best quality 17 players that are going to be out there. Look, I do like it, and at at 230 odd K or whatever, I think you're mad not to. It'd be great, probably a great downgrade from Ellis down to
Yeah.
someone like him. You save 70K, and all of a sudden there's a centre wing or a you can do even like a Reece Walsh, then probably up to a like up to Trell or something like that, if that's the way that you want to go. I know some people have changed things in the back line. It may then be a case of you can then a lot of guys that are on Iongi, the fullback from the Eels, maybe you sort of take 70K from there. You might have 50K in your bank somewhere else, and all of a sudden you might be able to squeeze up to turn him into someone like a Reece Walsh.
Yeah.
So yeah, those downgrades do make a big difference, mate. Absolutely.
Absolutely, mate. Is there anyone else in that Broncos team of any relevance for you?
No, like I was saying earlier, Bentakura, if he can jag a spot, I'm really keen on him. I've had him. I don't know if he's still there or not. Yeah, he actually still is. So I've got him as my fourth front row forward at the moment. Even
Very
if he
nice.
gets minutes off the bench, I think if he can get half an hour, I think he's going to still make money.
Oh, for sure.
I think his points per minute. The guy's an absolute freight train once he's got the ball and tackle, tackle, tackle. He'll be good for those short balls from dummy half
Mm,
at the line from 10 out, and people are going to be struggling to stop him. If you've got him on one side and Payne Haas on the other, and defense is obviously going to be 50-50 as to which side they go. I can see him picking up a few meaties nice and early. So yeah, if he can manage to get onto the bench and get half an hour, he's absolutely going to stay there in my fourth front row forward spot at 230K.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just looking at his break even. So his break even likelihood is 24, projected around 129. So look, if he gets over 30 points per minute, he's going to get over that 24 break even. So he will make you some cash. So he's a fantastic shout, mate. There's no one really more of relevance for me. Of course, Adam Reynolds is always good, but it's just injury dependent there. And of course, Brendan Piakura, he started as a gun last year. Everyone wanted to get him in and then had too many injuries. And then, as you said, just those lapses in concentration defensively. He's just at that awkward price of 400. I think there's other second rowers at the moment around that same price that I would go with more in Finney Fiaki at the Dolphins and even up to a Gilbert. So I think for me, there's other second row options there. Mate, anyone else that you're keen on in that Broncos team?
No, the other thing I will say with Piakura, I had him for most of last season, so he sort of burnt me a little bit. But he started at 450K last year. Now he's at
Yeah.
400K. Like everyone was all over him 12 months ago at 450. Now he's at 400. Every man and his dog on all the other podcasts seem to be talking him up. Oh, don't get me wrong, the guy's got potential,
Yeah.
but I want to see something in the trials first. I think the kicker was we saw a lot in the trials last year, and then it just didn't eventuate. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit sitting on the fence there. The value's there if he can get the minutes and if he can turn into the player that we all think he can be. But yeah, at the moment, just burned a little bit too hard from last year.
Yeah, I agree. Round one, they got the Roosters, of course, so he would be coming up against Angus Crichton as well, who is arguably the best front rower of 2024. So, yeah, look, I definitely wouldn't start with him in round one because Roosters will win that game. But let's jump off a bit of super coach now, and let's talk dynamites. Now, I've called this segment dynamites. I want you to give me a player who you think is going to explode in 2025. They could be a current player, they could be a rookie. Mate, who is your dynamite for 2025?
Mate, I can't go past Reece Walsh. I think if the Broncos are at full strength and the forward pack can do what we expect them to do, mate, I think especially off Benny Hunt. Look, he's been
Yeah,
around the system for long enough. He's obviously an ex-Bronco. He's got some, you wouldn't say skeletons in the closet, but look, the guy's got to make
baggage.
amends for the 2015 grand final, and I think he's coming home to do that. So look, I think especially once Benny gets into dummy half, and whether that be early on in the season, mid-season, late season, who knows when that's going to happen. But look, I think he's going to be probably playing on that left-hand side in Ezra Mam's usual spot. And I think just that sneaky ball out the back to Reece Walsh, I can see Walsh scoring plenty of points this year.
I love it, mate. Mine's Katoni Staggs. I think he's due for a big year. I've always liked Staggs. He's always been a great player, but to me, he just hasn't reached the heights of his potential. I really see this year as a bounce back season for Staggs. I just think I think if on that left side with Hunt, I think it's going to be fantastic early on in the season. Look, I've got Staggs being my dynamite. I think he's going to explode in 2025. May even get an origin jumper back, depending on how those other centers go in Crichton, Trell, Tommy. But yeah, look, I'm going to go Katoni for mine. But that is it for our Broncos preview. Do you want to quickly give where do you think Broncos are going to finish 2025? Early prediction.
Mate, I'm going to throw it out there, and I was going to say we're going to finish fourth.
Oh, very nice.
I think
Very
I think
nice.
we will get a home final. We will finish in that top four.
Mate, last year I was spot on. I said Broncos would drop out of the eight. This year you're coming back into the eight. I've got you finishing around six. I think there's a few teams I think will get above. I think Mads will bring this team back. But yeah, top eight for me, not top four just yet. But that is it for our Brisbane Broncos preview. I want to thank Timmy O from NRLSC Off the Bench podcast. And mate, where can people find your podcast?
Yeah, mate, absolutely. We're on Facebook. We are YouTube, Spotify. We're not on Apple Play this week, but we are working on it. But yeah, basically, you can find us anywhere where you listen to your podcasts. But yeah, absolutely, hit us up on Facebook as well. We've
Yep.
got all sorts of stuff going on with NRL Supercoach. We've got seeded leagues. We're head to head. We've got overall. We've got some new sponsors on board. So yeah,
Very
look, the
nice.
season's on the up and up. Absolutely.
Love it, mate. And of course, don't forget to check out the Ruck Infringer podcast on all your social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. And of course, Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. And just a quick shout out to our sponsors. Don't forget, you can check out Jersey Kings, jerseykingsaustralia.com. If you use the code RUCK, you get $50 off your jersey. So they're selling jerseys for $150. You'll get jerseys for $100. That's an absolute steal, absolute bargain bonanza, if you ask me. Lots of 2025 jerseys out at the moment, retro jerseys, origin jerseys as well. Locally owned business in Brisbane. Check them out, jerseykingsaustralia.com, and also on Instagram as well. But until next time, that's Timmy. I'm Joey. Be good.